I don't understand why we can't work with a buyer. Why do we have to be like, it's you and me? I'm on this side of the table. You're on that side of the table. Like, I sit next to buyers in meetings. Even recently, finally went to some in-person ones. I sat in between the two buyers. I'm like, I'm in the middle because we're working as a team and we're all looking at the same board and we're going through notes. You can see my notes. So that's why I always try to advocate for the work I do. I'm like, guys, just tell people what you're doing, what you're using, what you found. It's not a big deal.
This isn't your average revenue podcast. It's Ashley and Katrina's Infinite Revenue Playlist, powered by ComSore. And it's your new work bestie. Through conversations with other women in the revenue space, Ashley and Katrina get candid about their unique experiences, help women tackle challenges in the workplace, and uncover ways to grow as revenue pros. Maybe you'll learn a little, cry a little, laugh a little, have an epiphany, or at the very least, get a killer playlist to listen to while you work. Being a woman in this industry is wild. Let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Katrina.
Welcome to Ashley and Katrina's Infinite Revenue Playlist. Today, we'll be joined by Hannah Ajikawo, CEO and founder of Revenue Funnel. Hannah, thank you for joining us.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you for
thanks
having me.
joining. To kick it off, we want to introduce you a little bit and read your bio so everyone knows about your many wonderful accomplishments. So Hannah, first and foremost, is a mom, and she's also a go-to-market strategy consultant and has many years of experience as a sales leader. She recently led the EMEA business at Scaled before starting her own consulting firm, Revenue Funnel, where she currently spends her time building out global onboarding, training, and enablement programs for various organizations. She is an advocate for diversity in sales through her role at Sistas in Sales and has developed a habit of airing her views and perspectives on B2B sales, which is why we've asked her here. Being vocal has led her to being voted a top LinkedIn influencer, a sales influencer to watch as recommended by Built-In, and one of 100 most powerful women in sales as voted by Demandbase. She's obsessed with rethinking the ways that we as salespeople can continuously deliver value to our customers. And today specifically, she's joining us to chat about performing discovery, improving pipeline quality, and of course, what it's like being a woman and mom in revenue.
As you all know by now, our podcast has a bit of a musical twist to it. The Infinite Revenue Playlist was inspired by the concept of having a walk-up song, since as sellers and other revenue-related roles, we are often compared to athletes. The walk-up song is something that pumps you up before you step out onto the field to play, or in our case, before you walk into work and crush your day. With that in mind, Hannah, what is your walk-up song?
So my walk-up song's been the same for a few years now, and it's Bruno Mars and Cardi B, Finesse. The reason why is because it's like I used to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym almost every day. And without fail, every time I played that song, it would give me energy and like give me this mindset of like, today I'm going to execute everything just with a little bit more like class, bit of finesse, sharper. So yeah, it always gets me going. And I walked up on stage to that song earlier on this year, and I was like,
Nice.
proper vibing. It was pretty cool.
So it's a real walk-up song
It
for you.
is literally. That's what I do.
I think that might be our first literal walk-up song, so
It is.
yay.
Also, I think finesse is something that all salespeople should, possess if you want to be successful. So it's a very appropriate choice.
Here we go.
We've already added it to our playlist, which, by the way, can be found on Spotify by searching Ashley and Katrina's Infinite Revenue Playlist. And I was listening to it yesterday when I was driving up to Rhode Island, and it was the perfect add to the playlist.
Do you want to hear a fun fact?
Yes.
Absolutely. Always.
I only joined Spotify like a few weeks ago.
What?
I never used Spotify.
Did you use anything else before?
Yeah, so I was have you heard of Deezer before?
Never.
I think it originated in France, but they kept aggressively advertising Deezer years ago, like 5-6 years ago. And I signed up. I'm probably one of their first customers. And I stayed with them until I got a special offer on Apple Music. So I just thought I'd share that because like everyone's on Spotify and I'm like, I don't have it. But now I do.
We'll have to create a playlist on, what's it called? Deezer?
I don't use that anymore. Apple Music.
All right. Apple Spotify. Apple playlist instead.
I also use Apple Music, which I've gotten some shade for, but
yeah. It's okay. I'm with you. I'm with you, actually. It's fine.
I
Well,
just
so
want to
to
listen
jump right
to it.
into it, as you know, this podcast is all about elevating the voices of women in revenue. We've had you on our meetup series, which is why we're really excited to have you back. But
Mhm.
to get into the kind of the broad topic of just being a woman in revenue, we'd love to hear a little bit about your personal background from yourself and just what your experience has been as a woman in revenue.
Yeah. No, no problem. I'll share some. So I think I shared this with you before. I'm not the person who says I got President's Club every year for the 15 years of my career. That was really never my career. I had the fortune of joining some incredible organizations really early on in my sales career where I've always been in tech, and I feel more credible when I say like I was selling tech when you sent it out on CDs. I just feel like I'm now
Old
like
school.
you have to respect me now, right? I'm old
Yes.
school. But no, I had the benefit of joining organizations where there was great structure, great systems that helped to make salespeople and businesses successful. And then I also got the other side of it where it was like joining disruptive startups. So I joined an AI company in 2011. Everyone's like, AI. I'm like, man, yeah, that was me 12 years ago, right? So I've had the benefits of both of those environments and had like really great years, incredible years when I was winning awards and stuff, but also had awful years. I was like, I think I'm all right. What's happened here? So I started to look at like what are all the constructs that exist around salespeople, revenue teams that actually allow them to be successful. So products, the actual strategy, marketing, enablement, and I could see where things were broken. And so I started to do consulting about 8 years ago, and that picked up more and more. And I was in hybrid roles like AE or player coach roles or like SDR leadership. And then I just took, yeah, the consulting thing just really took heed. And the main thing is I realized that oftentimes when you step outside of the environment, people trust you more and they listen to you. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed having my voice heard, particularly as a woman in sales, where I was always the only one, particularly in new business sales. I tried so hard. I was like, man, I'm going to do account management. It's so easy. Like all you do is speak to customers all day. People are like, "You are a hunter." Yeah, we're not gonna put you in that role. So yeah, that's like my background. And today, of course, I'm the CEO founder of Revenue Funnel, really simply a consulting firm, and I work with tech organizations, helping them to increase their win rates and their average contract value by enabling their ability to support buyers on their buying journey. And I absolutely love what I'm doing.
So I
This
want
is
to go
new,
back to
right?
something you said real quick. You said you loved being heard, especially as a woman in revenue.
Mhm.
And throughout the meetup series that Ashley and I host, one of the most common issues or pain points that our attendees voice is that they feel like they're never heard or they don't really have a
Mm.
seat at the table. And I'm curious if there's something specific or tangible that other women in all sales roles can do to ensure that they are heard.
That's a good question. So I don't have the perfect answer for this, but I'll just talk to you about some of the stuff, like just the way that I used to think about it. So, firstly, you have to believe that what you say is actually of value and that it's valid. And you do that, you get more confident in that by making sure it's backed by data and you've got evidence. I think sometimes not we as women, but we as individuals in general, are guilty of complaining. Whereas in
Mhm.
businesses, particularly when it's businesses that need to make fast decisions, they want solutions. Don't complain, come up with something that we can work on. Don't make me work to understand your perspective. So I think what I started to do is think, okay, I'm just not gonna stay silent. And I had to remove the feeling that I felt like, oh my God, just don't think I'm an angry black woman if I object to something. Don't think that, oh my God, here she goes again. I had to like remove that feeling and just almost act like I didn't care.
Mhm.
Even though I did, it hurts. But I was like, Hannah, I think you've got valid points because I was getting braver in different spaces, speaking up in smaller groups rather than big ones. And, I was always nominated to be the person on the steering committee and stuff when that was a thing in companies. Again, I'm old school, but I just encourage people to, as a woman, you have to be the thing that you want to see. So you have to get into a place where you're like, you know what I have to say, it makes sense. Even if you have to turn to the side to a peer that you trust and be like, am I crazy here? But I feel like this is something that we should be thinking about. And, and lean on someone to be like, yeah, that's a great idea. And kind of get that confidence to speak up and out. But don't fall into the habit of complaining, right? BMW, what is it, bitching, moaning, and whining, right? Where because that doesn't do anything other than make you seem like the person that's always going to bring a negative tone. And I will say that I can equally balance moaning with solutions. I'm a bit like I can get carried away sometimes, but I've become much better at saying I'm looking at the picture. I can see everything that you're all saying. Have we thought about this yet? And planting that seed. But I'm also we're quite smart, right? We see things so differently. So sometimes we're saying things that seem so basic, and other people that may not identify as women are like, "That's great," and you're like, "It's really basic." So
Yeah.
that too. So just remember that you're really powerful in your ideas and your feeling. Just try to increase the confidence that you have, share in small spaces, and then amplify your voice a bit bigger.
I love that you said that about complaining. And I think that it's really easy for, and I don't know if it's, well, I have an opinion that it's easier for women to be seen as negative if they do
Yeah,
complain or bring up something that's against the grain.
yeah.
And I think it's really interesting call out that we do have to come to the table with data and things to back ourselves up, and we have to
Mhm.
continually work on our positivity so that we're not just discredited for the complaining. So thank you for bringing that up because I think it's really important.
Another thing to add to that is trust, right? And trust. If I always talk about this, but you could read 100 books and it always comes down to character and competence. So if people are going to trust what you say, if you deliver, right? If
Yeah.
you are competent, and if you have good intentions. So if they don't see you as somebody that has good intentions or good motives, and you also have never really performed, it's really hard to speak up,
Hmm.
right? And I've had situations where I wasn't performing, and I knew that part, there's always more you can do as a revenue generator. But when you've been in a situation where you're like, this strategy is broken. It's so wrong. We're going after the wrong companies. Like, this is a mess. How can nobody else see this? But because you're not performing, you're like, I can't say anything because
Yes.
man, it's so hard because they're gonna be like, you don't know anything. It's like, I do. I've done this so many times in other companies, but here it's a mess. And I didn't see it before I joined. So I it's really hard to in those situations where you're like, and that's where you have to have somebody else at that higher level that sees that like you. They're like, I know that this isn't a sales problem. This is a business problem that we're having right now. So everybody speak up. So as leaders, like we have to also invite our teams and make everybody feel heard and give them space to give feedback.
I think this will obviously differ from person to person, situation to situation.
Mm.
But do you have any like tangible ways, I think, that women can practice kind of that confidence or taking baby steps towards actually speaking up? Because I know for myself, especially in the early days of being a baby SDR, if I had an idea, I would sit on it for a month because I was like, I'm an SDR. I know nothing. They don't want to hear what
Well,
I have to say. And something that I used to do is I would type up whatever my idea was, and I would read over it probably 100 times. And if I still thought it was a good idea, the 100th time reading it, I was like, "I'm sending it." But obviously, that's not very practical. I'm curious if there's anything that you put into practice yourself that other people could replicate.
oh, completely. I used to just go and do it. I'd go and do it, and I'd go back to a leader and be like, "You can't tell me off now because I've done it and it's a good outcome," kind of thing, right? I'd never do anything that was like going to be against company policy or anything like that. But if I'm thinking about being in those junior positions, I have literally gone outside my territory, called the biggest company in that in our target accounts because I could see that nobody had contacted it. I've sold to them, and then when the contracts come through and the invoice is going out of finance, I've been called into the MD's office and he's like, "What have you done?" He's like, "Well done, by the way, but what have you done?" But it's like I could see that we weren't doing some really basic stuff, which is like, hey, this is the sweetest spot for us. Like big company, the need is crystal clear. I know I can go in with this value proposition. Why are we not doing it? Oh, they're busy. I'm like, I've got a target to hit, so I'm going to go hit it, right? But what that did when it comes to back to that trust thing is when we had we're planning for our go-to-market strategy. I was really junior here actually. And I remember the MD calling the CMO and saying, "Can you invite Hannah into that meeting? She's always got good ideas." But I'm a big believer in go do it, even at a small scale, just so you can come to the table with, I've got an idea, I've got feedback, I've got thoughts. Even if it means you've got an idea to your point, Katrina, and you're like, I'm gonna go outside of our company and just check with other people. Like, I was going to try this. Do you think it's a good idea? Or are you guys seeing this? But you have to just do it. Like it's really, I know it sounds crazy, but that's the most tangible thing I can say. If you've got an idea, do it, do whatever you can to move the needle a little bit. And the biggest thing is just bring the data and the evidence. So even if you are brand new, even if you are underperforming, if you're saying to a leader, hey, I've got some kind of proof that this could be a good idea, and they are dismissing that, then they're being an irresponsible leader. And that's it. That's not
It's
on
true.
you. They genuinely are being irresponsible by neglecting that. So they should be considering stuff like that. But as we know, there's egos that float about. So
Do and ask for forgiveness later.
oh, that's literally my philosophy.
I love it. I love it.
Your new company,
Mhm.
you said consulting. Are these some of the things that you're helping other teams with?
Yeah. So part of what I'm doing is, if I'll take it back a step actually. So if you think about what's happening in the industry and just in general, people are just a bit fatigued now, man. Like buyers are at this place where they're just human, like you and I, we buy things, right, all the time. And if you think about some of the processes you go through, you're just like, oh, leave me alone. Let me do what I need to do. Go away. Don't ask me how I'm doing. Just go away. I'm busy and I'm fed up. I've got things to do. I'm moving home. I've got 10 minutes between, right? So we're all in those spaces. So they're just like, I'll let you know when I need help. And our job is to not wait and let them know until they come to us. But really, our job as revenue teams and organizations is to be like, I think they're going to need help now. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna try and understand where they're at, and I'm gonna try and give them something that's going to be useful. And I was listening to what a lot of sales leaders were asking me around. Hey, Hannah, how can I help my team qualify things better? I think they're just not great at discovery. They're not asking good questions, and we're having prospects just ghosting, forecastings all over the place. And I was like, do you know what I'm seeing over the last like 7 years of consulting is reps, they don't listen to buyers because we train them to do our processes so much. We're like, follow this process. And I always say that I've done the same thing. I've built processes and say, follow this, it's great. However, I've always been very buyer centric. So in everything that I've built and thought about, it's like, yeah, but what does a client need? Or what does a
Mhm.
buyer want? So that's quite comes quite naturally to me. So I'm trying to, a big part of to that trust piece that I do in enablement is helping people to develop their credibility in enablement. We don't do that often. It's like how to make a cold call, how to do this, how to do that, which is fine. Those are skills that we need. But it's also understanding particular things around our character. And that's literally like one acronym of my one of the frameworks, the care framework that I developed. And it's like character. So how do you show up for buyers in a sales engagement or any kind of engagement? Maybe you're a customer success manager. How do you show up as someone that's credible and trustworthy? And we don't get taught that. And we just assume people come out of school and they're great people. It's like, yeah, but you've told me to be like business like, and I don't know how to be myself and deliver value. So yeah.
I think one of the most underrated skills any salesperson can have is that ability to listen to what a customer is saying and respond and deviate from the script. Because
Sorry.
I was just on a sales call the other day where I was on the buying side of it and they were pitching me, and it wasn't a bad call by any means. I could tell
Yeah.
they were checking all the boxes, they followed all the things they needed to do, say all the questions they needed to hit. But there was a few things that I said that I was basically leading them in a direction, and they just completely, like, ignored it and kept
Yeah.
going with the script, and I was like, "If you could have just deviated a little bit and proved how your solution would help with what I just said to you, it would have been a no-brainer for me to continue the conversation," but they
Yeah.
completely missed it, and they were great at delivering the demo. They were personable, they had a great
Good.
tone, it
Yeah.
was a really great demo, but they didn't listen, and I was like, it's so important now that I'm on the opposite side that when I am pitching to a customer, I really listen to what they're saying and I respond to it, right? And I think that is something that is missing in a lot of the discovery calls that I listen to nowadays.
Massive.
Coincidentally, I feel like listening skills is one of the skills that sets women apart in sales works.
Mm.
Yeah. I think this is a really good transition into one of the many topics that we wanted to chat with you about, which is discovery calls, right? Listening during discovery.
Yeah.
There could have been a billion topics we chose to chat with you about, but we thought discovery would be a really good one because we haven't covered it yet. And I
Yeah.
know from following you on LinkedIn and all your content that you are trying to evangelize discovery. And we'd love to learn what that means and what
Yeah.
exactly you're evangelizing.
I think I'm just a little bit weird, to be fair. I try to break things down into like digestible chunks because I feel like when I see some of the discovery frameworks out there that, even through like working with clients, I'm like, it's okay. Yeah, okay. Like I get it. But I see the same thing over and over again. And I don't know when this happened, really. I think it's as we started to look for faster growth and we've got this kind of VC infused industry that's really blown up over the last 15 years. But we do this thing where we plan discoveries and we've got all these frameworks and scripts, all good, but we only plan to sell to people who have known problems. And we only plan to sell and have conversations and build discovery and people that are like, I'm ready. I know everything. Whereas 80% of people don't. So we go in and we're like, hey, so want to understand your role and responsibilities. Boo to that question. I want to understand, why did you take this call? Yeah, fair enough. And it's like, okay, like, tell me about your world. What keeps you up at night? And then they're like, well, you messaged me. I thought I'd take the demo. And they're like, so, how many platforms do you use? And it's like all this tick box, tick box. But which is fine. People can answer those. And then people that are better at discovery will ask more metric based questions and really start to get to the pain. The thing is, Hannah, VP of whatever department, I have no idea about the pain. I haven't really thought about it. You said something and I was like, light bulb for me. That sounds quite interesting. I'm curious to learn more, but that's it. I'm curious to learn more. I didn't say I'm gonna buy anything. I could get budget, yeah, but I don't know how this relates to me. So the biggest thing that I see companies mess up is just that ability to take people that are really early on in their buying journey and nurture them and influence them so that when they are at a space where they want to buy, it's just you. There's no one else. You've been helping me through this process for a long time for the 2, 3, 4, 6, 9 months. Instead, what we do is we call and we're like, yeah, boss, they had no pain, waste of time, bant them out, qualify them out. I'll call you back in 4 months. In 4 months, you call, and little nifty disruptive startups got in touch with them because they've been hammering them hey, let me give you this, let me give you that, and let me give you this. And you're like, oh, I already bought something. You know what, Ashley, you just missed it. We just bought something. And it's like, you told me to call you back in 4 months. It's like, yeah, but that was just a random number. And so we're not really great at that. So I always say the way in which companies have to start to overcome that is simple. Firstly, find out where someone is in their buying journey. And you'll see me talking about this all the time. I've been making the same videos for 2.5 years. One day, there's a few people that listen to me and they're my customers. But
I'm one
essentially,
of them.
there we go, right? On a scale of, 1 to 10, where are you in understanding how this whole thing manifests itself inside your organization? This issue, challenge, opportunity, topic, AI, GPT, whatever it is. Like, where are you in understanding that? And just say like 1 meaning, man, I just took this call. It's the first time I've heard of it. 10 meaning we're developed an RFP. We've got shortlisted vendors. We're going in that direction. You can still win those, but it's really freaking hard, right? But we build discoveries for people that are in that review stage. They've built their hypothesis. They've shortlisted vendors. They've already chosen a direction, and you can't really influence that. You can only try to influence their decision making, but not their direction. Whereas people that are in that early stage are really in research. They're like, hey, I'm a free. Someone did mention it in our team meeting on Monday. And Hannah, you know what? Your email literally came through at the same time that I had that meeting. So I thought I'd take the meeting. We're still figuring it out. Teach me something. And it's like, perfect. I'm going to use all of the training I have to teach you about the problem. And I'm going to teach you about how you go about figuring it out inside your organization as well. Here's the tools, resources, scripts, meetings, questions you should ask your senior decision makers. These are the people that you need to speak with. They'll listen to you because you're going to make them a superhero. We never on earth have I ever seen training around that. Never. And I've gone into organizations and challenged them on that. And they're like, oh, actually, no, we've just figured this. We're just trying it. And I'm like, I hear your team's calls. I literally spend my days listening to sales calls. Well, I am Gong. I'm like
The human version of Gong.
there we go, right? I'm just like the one individual, but I hear it all the time. I'm like, yes, you're doing a great discovery of the people that are ready, but the people that aren't, you're missing them and they're going elsewhere.
So, what suggestions do you have for, I guess, the companies that are currently focused on the people that are already where they want to make a buying decision? They're already doing their research. How do we be more intentional about targeting those earlier stage prospects that need more education?
Yeah. We have to look at the buying journey as something that our entire revenue team is supporting. And that's really what I try to nurture through revenue funnel. So, I always say there's 8 stages of the buying journey, right? So really quickly, there's the pre-purchase and there's the post-purchase. So you've got awareness, consideration, decision, and purchase. Then you've got adoption, expansion, renewal, and advocacy. And that's kind of split in two kind of. But in that early stage, we have this assumption that that's marketing's job. Marketing raise the awareness, marketing educate. So what happens is we get in to try and qualify, and the qualification criteria we have says, do you have a problem right now? No, by back to marketing. Marketing can't influence in the way that we can. We are skilled individuals at listening, at special questioning and kind of like objection handling. You can't objection handle an ad campaign. I mean, it helps, but it doesn't help someone, it doesn't challenge people. So when we have to start developing narratives, conversation, templates where you can speak to someone and it's like, hey, you signed up for a demo. Is it a demo you needed or did you have specific questions? To be fair, thanks for asking that. I don't yeah, probably not a demo yet. I did have one question, but there was nothing else I could do on your website. Because a buyer won't really say that they didn't want a demo. However, you use a technology to see where their tab was, and they weren't on your demo. The tab showed that they were actually on a different screen because they had one question and they don't want to be impolite, and they're used to salespeople talking on and on. So they just kind of let you do your thing and then they kind of take you for a ride. Let's get our reps prepared to be like, is it cost you want? No problem. I can give you a bracket. I can't give you accurate costings, but if that's what you need to raise your awareness, oh, good, I can give you that. We don't give our teams tools. We say if they're not ready, qualify them out and go find someone else. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's your ICP. They're going to be ready inside an 18-month to 2-year window. Fact, because they have to make the changes. That's why you have a business that's found the trends and you're growing and all those things. But we just say if they're not in that 3 to 6 month window, and we also incentivize that. So we just work to that, and we're doing what we're going to get paid for. I'm not going to do things I'm not going to get paid for.
Everyone's going to roll their eyes as I yet again bring up community, but this is why I'm such a huge advocate of community in sales, because it's a great way to nurture the relationships with those early stage prospects, build that level of awareness and education, get to know them. Or if they have a simple question, right? You're not forcing them to get on a demo, but you can interact with them in some community space.
Yeah.
You say, hey, anyone know, such and such about Seismic, Ashley season? She's like, yeah, of course. Happy to answer. I work there, right? Community is a great way of doing that. I will bang that drum for a million years to come.
Yeah. It is. It is. You have to create, as I said, like part of that early stages is where we get people inside an environment. Come on, man. If you follow any of these entrepreneurs, right? They're like, create your customers, get them all in one space to talk to each other and help each other. And then guess what? At some point, they're going to raise their hand and say, Katrina, I'm ready to talk to you. Ashley, I'm ready to talk to you because I've got myself this far. And that's what we do as humans, right?
Yeah.
Most people will, like, let's think of fitness. You'll go to the gym and they'll try and sell you personal training. You're like, for some people, they're like, I need the accountability, end of. I know I can't do this. Other people are like, give me a few months, dude. Like, let me try it out, use some of the machines. And when I'm not getting the progress that I thought I would get or get there fast enough, I'm going to use you to get there quicker because you know how to do it. You've done it many times, but we need to give people a space to try and figure some stuff out, and we can support them in that. And they're going to get to a point where they're like, yeah, I've tried. I'm ready. Let's go. And it's so easy. And that's where they're like, this closing is not hard. I've never had a problem with closing. I don't know why everyone's like, you need to do closing training. I'm like, no, because that's
discovery training is closing training.
There we go. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, from the rooftops. That's exactly what it is. It will close naturally if when you build great discovery. Everything is logical beyond that because they understand why you're chasing them. They're like, I'm sorry, Hannah. I know I said I was going to do that. That's the kind of conversations you have. They're like sharing their screen, showing you their inbox, the message that where the manager's like, they're literally shouting like, "Don't use that person." And you're like, "I know that you're the best." That you start working as a team. It's not selling. It's so easy, but we just get
Becomes
to
a
that.
partnership
Yeah,
almost.
it's just a partnership. And I see people say, "It don't say partner, collaborate." And I'm like, I use all of those words because I genuinely collaborate with like if someone's
Mhm.
buying something from me or a solution, I work with them. I don't understand why we can't work with a buyer if they if they have a need. Why do we have to be like it's you and me? I'm on this side of the table. You're on that side of the table. Like I sit next to buyers in meetings. Even recently, finally went to some in-person ones. I sat right next. I sat in between the two buyers. I'm like, I'm in the middle. Let's go. Because we're working as a team and we're all looking at the same board and we're going through notes. You can see my notes. You can why are we hiding? What is this? So that's why I always try to advocate for the work I do. I'm like, guys, just tell people what you're doing, what you're using, what you found. It's not a big deal.
I think that's also a really great way of practicing, as I know you're a fan of honesty in sales,
Big time.
is by working with your customers as if they're your partners. Because again, everyone's heard this line a million times. So people buy from people, and they're not going to buy from a person they don't trust. So why
Mhm.
wouldn't you just be transparent and honest? It's going to lead. They're going to trust you more throughout the entire process. They're more inclined to buy from you, and then they're going to be a better customer once they actually sign the dotted line.
Big time. Yeah, yeah. And you won't cause problems for people down the funnel, which are like your CS team, where they're like, "What have
Like,
you done?"
not
Yes.
Katrina and Ashley closing yet another customer they lied to. No.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's
But
like, here
we've
we go.
all had that coworker that does that, right?
Yeah.
I've
I don't know how they keep. I don't know how people keep their
and we
jobs.
don't know because they don't always stick around for very long or something
Mhm.
catches up with them. I can think of one at every job I've ever had where you're like,
Okay.
"Okay, but I'm not going to take that shortcut because that is not ethical."
Yeah,
It's a thing,
that's all.
and it's ruining our reputation, so we have to take it back.
And it's
I,
mostly people that don't identify as women, by the way. I'm
I
just
didn't
pointing
say
out
it, you
there.
did, but yes.
Coming out there, like,
there
in
was
every company
a
that I work with, it's the same thing.
We have a picture in our head of who that is, yep.
That's so funny.
I took over some opportunities from someone that had left a company I was at. And there was one call in particular where I literally had to say, I'm so sorry, but you're not buying what you think you're buying. Like, we don't do this. We don't do this. We don't do this. This is what we do. And the person was so appreciative. They're like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
thank you for telling me because I could have lost my job for buying this because this is completely different than what I expected. And the entire time, I was like, I would never lie to a customer like that.
To that extent, right? It's actually incredible, and that's the
It's
thing.
not
What
worth it for the sale.
yeah, and it makes it so it does two things. It either makes it really hard for the next person, or you just do the bare minimum, and you are this incredible angel to a buyer because they're like, that other person didn't even add an agenda. The other person was late to every meeting. The other person made me look bad in front of my boss. And you're like, really? Like, that's a thing where they just don't turn up? Yeah, they
Mm.
just didn't turn up for the meeting. I'm like, oh, I just wouldn't do that. I don't know. That's not my norm.
It's
Yep,
why we get bad reps as salespeople.
Big time. Big time.
it's true.
Ashley, I know you want to ask some questions about being a mom,
Yes.
and I'll let you kind of tackle those since you are also a mom, but I
Yeah.
can't speak to that. So,
Hannah, I feel like when you joined our meetup a few months ago, we
Mm.
had like, "Hey, talk about being a mom" at the very end, and we had like 5 minutes to talk about it. So we have a little bit more time, and I I talk about being a mom in sales all the time, and I know that you have we even had a
Mm.
cameo, I think, of your son. Like, I think he showed
Yes.
up
yep,
for a minute.
he made
I
an
lock the door
appearance.
all the time. I'm like, not he will just take over.
I love that. So, yeah, I mean, what advice you have for moms in sales coming from someone who is doing it every day?
Oh man, you just need to let people know that you are a mum, like as early as possible, because and not everyone will understand, and some people won't care. But the reason why is just so people know that he could show up, like he's just going to show up, and
Yeah.
like it's okay right now, right? But and also just testing that out with let's just say if you are in an important meeting, because sometimes I don't have any help, so I'm like I'm just hoping today is not the day that he decides to build a mountain around me, right, or swing for my neck. But we do, set that expectation with your buyer to say, if there's a broader meeting, does it make sense for us to just push the meeting out? Sometimes if you know that you're not going to be your best, because as a parent, particularly as a single parent, sometimes it's like, whew, I'm not at my best. I'm just going to make silly mistakes. I may not be listening because, my son went through a phase of having, really bad outbursts. And I'd
Mm.
literally be on Zoom and hear it scream. And I don't know if it's an outburst or he's hurt himself. And I've just been like, I've just shut my laptop. I just had to beg for forgiveness afterwards because I'm like, I cannot be a superhero. Like I can't be everywhere at once, and my child is always going to come first. So
Yep.
I'm like, set the expectation, and just let people know. And some of us have kids who have special needs. They need attention, right? There's kids that have special needs. There's kids that have special routines. My son has no routine. He is the boss of the house. He puts me to bed most days. I just think we have to give ourselves some grace because it's really hard to switch off from sales. It's just
Mhm.
hard because you're like, there's always one more deal, one more prospect. You've seen a post, you're like, oh, that's my buyer. Let me go. Shall I jump on LinkedIn? And it's like, oh, or they've messaged you at 10 p.m. and you're like, they've taken 2 weeks to respond. Maybe I should. There's so many things, but we do have to give ourselves grace and just know that if you are doing the right things more often, don't feel like you have to be online at 11 p.m. trying to do something. You're not at your best. Just take that break because when you are, fully fledged and you've got 5 solid hours, the kids are at school or whatever the situation is, that's your time to shine. So I've had to give myself a lot of grace, like so much grace, and not guilt trip myself into, oh my God, I missed his bedtime. I'm like, I got bills to pay. Okay, Mr. Man, right? You see that? You want Minecraft game and you wanted like 15 other games for your Nintendo Switch. They are 50 quid each. Okay, so I gotta go work for that. So I do have really adult conversations with him since he was like 2.
Oh, yeah.
He's over it. But yeah,
Yep. We're on the Switch kick too. It's
yeah,
Mario all day long over
all the
here.
time. Hmm.
So, Hannah, has there ever been a moment or experience where
He's
someone
making it.
has either given you a hard time or reacted negatively to you having to prioritize your son over work, whether it was like a customer, a prospect, or someone you work with?
Do you know what's funny? We always assume that it's going to be our prospects that give us a hard time. It's always our companies.
Mhm.
Like, honestly, we don't feel the pressure from prospects. I find it so much easier to say to a prospect, like a few weeks ago, I just felt so run down. It's like allergies and a cold kicked in all at once. And I was like, it was 20 minutes before the call. I was really trying hard to be like, come on, Hannah, just one more meeting. But I'm like, my brain's fried. I'm sneezing. Like, and it was late as well. It's always the work. When you're working, the kids are like, "This is the time I want to speak to you." But yeah, it usually has been like the working environment where I feel like I'm disappointing my colleagues or my
Mhm.
boss, which is unfortunate. They say it's okay when they understand. I don't think they do as much as they say they do at all.
I have had the luck of working with people who also have kids, and in those cases, it's a little easier because they do understand, but there have been probably more cases where they didn't, and it's hard. What's the thing that you've learned the most from your child that has helped you in sales? Like, let's go positive here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, patience, increased empathy. You don't realize how much you have in you. And people will find this through different ways, not just parenthood. But there's things that happen in your life. For me, it was having a child where I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much more in me. I didn't I didn't realize that I could not sleep and survive. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I've survived on no sleep for like I think it was 3.5 years before my son stopped waking up every night for a
Yep.
bottle. So, and I was up at, 5 a.m. and I had a 13-hour day. So it's like that patience of, okay, I have to find a better way of dealing with this myself because that is a child. And if I cannot control or mediate a child, then there's things that I have to work on. I have to find new ways of mediating and kind of alleviating a high tension thing. So, it's forced me to look at, look left, look right and read different things, observe different things, really get to know him in a different level, which is not just, I'm your mom, because
Yeah.
firstly, he doesn't stand for it, which means he's definitely my child. But he will just be like, he will say things to me when I was younger. He'd be like, Mom, it's not that I don't go to sleep. It's that you haven't found the most creative ways to get me to sleep. It's literally, he would say that to me. And I'm like, you are right. That Okay, back to the drawing board. So yeah, they teach you a lot, but again, it's not always through parenthood. There's other things that will happen in people's lives, and they're like, "Oh my god, there's more in me." Sometimes it's
Mhm.
a new friend, a relationship where you've just got that new drive and sense of being that just completely changes things for you, and it's so exciting. It's by far the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I agree.
I'm not a mom, but I just want to validate how impressed I am with both you two and just any mom that's working for that matter. I can barely
Oh,
take care of myself and my dog.
Yeah.
So power to you.
yeah, you'll be surprised. You're just like, I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. I'm
You
just
have
doing it.
to.
Yeah,
You
you
c
have
you
to.
do
There
not
you
have a
go.
cho you do not have a choice. That kid has to eat, that kid has to sleep. They need
Yeah.
they have needs, and it's all you, so
Yeah, yeah. We just take deep breaths and do star jumps. We have this thing where we do the energy jump. So if he's moody, I'm like, I made him do it outside school. That people looking like, what's going on here? I'm like, come on, dude. 1, 2, 3. We're jumping in the air together. So they're like, okay, this is weird, but I don't care. That's our thing. And it immediately makes me smile. Look, you're smiling. It immediately makes him smile when he snaps out of it. I'm like, okay, let's rock the day now. So it's just like this is things you do as parents, and I really don't care what people think anyway. So I'm like, I will dance in the street. Let's go, let's go do it.
I think an
I'm gonna use
energy
that.
jump could be used for anything in sales, right? You just got
Yeah,
rejected by a prospect. All right. Energy jump. You just closed the
group star
deal.
jump. That's it.
Energy jump.
Yeah,
I love it.
I can sell this to my son because Star Jump sounds like something out of Mario, so
there
there's
you
that.
go.
Oh,
And you get a
Exactly.
gold coin. There you
There
go.
you go.
Oh,
love
I
it.
love that.
Power up.
We do want to ask you a few quick questions about pipeline quality before we wrap it up with the would you rather questions. Because I know this
Mhm.
is something that you've written about recently on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and you talk about it quite often. How can salespeople, ensure they actually have quality pipeline and improve it continuously?
So I was talking about that 2-year window that most companies, if you've got a good business, a good product, and you're following the trend, they should need what you have inside a window, a rolling 2-year window. Now, the first thing I say is when you have an opportunity that looks real, feels real, do 2 checks. One, check where they are in their buying journey, because that's going to help you forecasting. Because if you go through and you're like, oh, actually, they still haven't really, there's no metrics around this issue or stuff. They're just kind of like, we have a problem. And they haven't figured it out yet. So people can buy at that stage. The only thing is they'll buy it at this level when the deal value could be here. That's the first thing. I've told reps that deal's going to close. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, because I listened to your call and oh my God, it's so compelling. And he's thinking this is the cheapest thing ever. Right. But because it's like a big deal value for you, you didn't see that could have been 100K. They're like, so it's stuff like that. So that's the first thing. Check where they are. The other thing is, which will help you recognize how solid the opportunity is during the early stages of a deal, buyers have to find consensus as a decision making unit. Even the people that sign on the dotted line, but the influencers, the users, the people in the trenches, there has to be consensus that this is something that they care about in relation to the stuff the whole company cares about. So a quick example is we want to increase rep productivity at the same time that we're going through, the economy's crap and there's mass layoffs. So productivity is going to be really key to that individual, but also to the top line. Like we have to be as productive because we've got a lean team. So you're like, I can see the dotted line there. Great. Okay. So now I'm like, I just want to make sure everyone cares about that. Because if they don't, what happens is you'll have this one champion or someone, maybe even one other decision maker that makes you think your deal was real. And at the end of it, they'll be like, yeah, sorry, I just checked with my boss. And they're just like, yeah, it's just not really a go for us. There was no consensus. The boss should know, everybody should know really early on that, hey, as a business, we are proactively trying to solve this problem. And if the business doesn't know that, it's really hard to close the deal. And that's why we lose so many deals.
So, in terms of checking where they're at with their
Mhm.
buyer intent and their buyer journey, do you suggest literally asking, like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, where
Yes.
are you?
Yeah, it's so funny because I had a few people when I first posted that in like 2021. Someone came back to me they're like, "Oh my god, I literally just asked that question. It's changed everything for me." I was like, "I told you." But you can do that throughout buying journeys as well. Like, hey, let's be real. Scale of 1 to 10. If I send you this proposal, can you read that this weekend? No, and it's just not going to happen for the next few weeks. Brilliant, thank you. I was just in a meeting 2 weeks ago. I said so. The first thing I did is I was like checking where they are in their buying journey because they were asking for, hey, can we have a discount? And I was like, hold up. Have you actually decided to use a consulting firm yet? Because if you haven't decided on a direction you're going to take, what am I giving you a discount for? That's pointless. We're negotiating nothing. I need to know that you are going to use me or someone like me so we can have like for like comparison. So ask the question or simply say like, you can do the signs. I've got like all these frameworks that one day I'll share, but but no, if you think about it, you can ask someone, have you developed like an internal hypothesis? Like, do you have an idea about what this could mean to your organization? If it's a no, they're so early on. Like they have work to do, man. So that's like that will help you recognize this in like that research phase. If someone says something like, "We have decided or we've discovered that we have got this problem is causing us to create this issue. It's that bottleneck. We thought through like what it would mean if we changed it, and we thought about the amount of resources we need. We're like, okay, you are definitely reviewing how to solve this. Then you're like, they're on the other side of the fence. So you can ask that you can kind of check into those like key pieces that will tell you where they are. That is one of the best things you can do to check the quality of your pipeline. Honestly, it's so easy. You can
It's so
I
simple.
do a line. So a horizontal line down the middle, right? So you've got a cross, put research on the left, review on the right, on the left-hand side in the research stuff. Have they agreed that there's something wrong that they want to solve for? On the other side, are they working on it? And if so, then there has to be some kind of metrics or impact. That's it. Just do that. Every time you have a deal, go back to your deal, do that cross, check it. I guarantee you're going to be like, oh man, everyone's in research. Nothing's closing. It's the truth. Most things are in research. They're not in review.
I think that's
better
such a
than-
simple but such an easy tactic that everyone should deploy.
Yeah.
It works. It's so funny how easy it is. And we try and do all this like, I'm going to write MedPick down. And that's great.
No.
Have you built consensus? That there's no C for consensus in MedPick, I promise you. Not yet. We need to add another C.
I was going to say
Yeah.
there should be.
So many C's.
So, you want to jump towards the would you rather questions?
Yeah, we can do would you rather. So we always do some fun, quick, personalized would you rather questions, rapid
Mhm.
fire. So Hannah, are you ready?
Absolutely not. But let's go
Okay,
for
good.
it.
All right. So would you rather consult for a small team that sells a complicated product or a large team with a simple product? Or do you even
Oh.
care?
Oh, I can do them. Don't make me go on the fence because I'll stay on the fence. Everything. I'm gonna say small team.
Okay. Would you rather have your son lead part of your sales pitches on every sales call you make, or have your son be responsible for sending one cold email every week that you are not allowed to edit?
Oh my god, cold email every week.
Okay.
That would be great. That would be
I
That
feel
was
like you
pretty
need to
cute.
have him write one now and send it to us.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so funny because he could just out spell, so that'll be hilarious.
Oh, that's even better. Would you rather have to include a line from your walk-up song, Finesse by Bruno Mars, in every single cold email you send? Or would you rather post a video of yourself dancing to Finesse every time you close a deal?
Oh man, it's funny. I'd probably go for number one. Yeah, I'd probably go for the first one. I'd do both, but let's go for the first one.
Perfect. Would you rather work in a sales role that offers a higher base salary but less flexibility, or a sales role that offers more flexibility but a lower base salary?
Oh, more flexibility because I'll just make up the money doing consulting on the side.
There you go.
Heck yeah.
I love that. Okay, last one. Would you rather have to demo a product without a discovery call, or have a long discovery call but not be allowed to ask additional questions during the demo?
So okay. Oh, I'd go for the first one because I can demo disco with finesse, so it's fine.
Ooh, full
I
circle.
think you picked the first option for every single question.
Oh my god, look at that!
That's
I'm just an
pretty
A. I'm just an A star student. That's what
There
it
you
is.
go. I love it.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure to have you back and chatting
Oh,
with us. And we appreciate all of your insight, all of your advice, and your perspective.
Thank you.
And I think everyone should be following you on LinkedIn and Twitter, wherever else that you are, because you always post such amazing content. But thank you again so much for being here.
No, you are welcome. So yes, LinkedIn, you can find me there, and I would encourage everybody, please, to subscribe to my YouTube. I'm posting 1 or 2 videos every single week now. I'm back at it before I pause, but yeah, and there's some super content coming.
Love it. Well,
That-
you've got 2 subscribers right here.
Yeah, I've actually never subscribed to anything on YouTube, but you'll be
No
my
way.
first. Never.
Oh,
I don't
great,
even know if I have
love
a
it.
YouTube login. Do I automatically?
You're gonna find out today, I see.
Right. For those of you listening, you can again follow Hannah on LinkedIn, subscribe to her YouTube, If you'd like to listen to Hannah's song, Finesse by Bruno Mars, you can also find that on Spotify along with all of the other songs that our amazing guests have put together for us by searching for Ashley and Katrina's Infinite Revenue playlist. Thanks and see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ashley and Katrina's Infinite Revenue Playlist. This show is powered by Comsor, the go-to-network company. Comsor is the complete suite of tools for teams looking to grow, activate, and engage their networks. If you enjoyed the learnings and banter in this episode, there's more where this came from. Follow Ashley and Katrina's Infinite Revenue Playlist wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. See you next time.